Since its inception, MTN Group, Africa's leading telecommunications operator, has built a unique legacy, connecting people, driving economic growth, and transforming lives across South Africa and the African continent. Today, MTN serves more than 288 million customers across 18 markets, and in 2023, its fintech transactions topped $272 billion. What might the next 30 years look like? I had an opportunity to ask Group CEO Ralph Mpita that question and many more.
We started our first call on the 1st of June 1994 after securing the license in September 1993. We had a business plan then where we thought the case was that over the next 5 years there'll be 300,000 subscribers on the MTN network. 2/3 of them, 200,000, would be businesses. And we said there's very limited opportunity for individuals. And in fact, the individual market was seen as people who had car phones. So that was the market assessment then. But fast forward 5 years later, 300,000 was 2 million in South Africa. So that business case didn't really capture the market opportunity. MTN started as a story in South Africa. And by 1997, started to expand its wings, moved to firstly Rwanda. Rwanda is our firstborn child. And then we went to Uganda pretty much the same time, and Eswatini. And then, the expansion into Nigeria, 2001. And then the rest is history. So it's been a journey that has been amazing in seeing us from this company that now has 288 million subscribers. So to your question about the impact, I think telecommunications more generally has transformed the global south. If we think about where we came from, the early 90s, teledensity, the number of people who have a fixed line in most African markets was very low. I mean, Zimbabwe was 1.2 telephone lines for 100 people. South Africa was 8.9. Most African markets were like 0 point something. So what telecommunications, wireless, it's been a real revolution in its ability to connect people to the internet and give them all the benefits of the internet. And what we've also been able to do as MTN is leverage the capabilities, skills, and brand that we had to launch mobile money in 2009. And we now have 288 million subscribers using our network regularly, and we have 63 million people using mobile money. So the socioeconomic impact has been significant. We are, in most markets, ex-SA, the largest taxpayer, one of the biggest employers, and we're number one or number two in our market. So the socioeconomic, benefits, we would like to believe that MTN has delivered in the various host markets, has been significant.
Experts talk about telecommunications now as the new infrastructure. In the past, we spoke about roads, railways, but now people are talking about telecommunications as that other backbone that an economy needs. Just talk a little bit about how you see that and how you see the role of MTN.
Yeah, if you think about it today, everything is connected to data networks. We think of ourselves as building base stations, fiberizing the networks, connecting people, connecting businesses. But if you step back from it, wireless communication has become critical national infrastructure. Every bank is having transactions flowing through our network. Hospitals depend on networks being on. Schools, just general society is underpinned by wireless telecommunication. And now the line between wireless and fixed is blurring as we move into this 5G era. We're seeing a bit more of that blurring. But, it is the new and most important form of critical infrastructure. Roads, rail, airports, ports, etc., still have a role to play, no doubt about that. But what is really transforming societies, and again, I come back to the point about societies in the global south, like in our markets, is the role of the digital economy. to drive, socioeconomic growth. So, it's a very interesting form of infrastructure that is almost a public good, but provided by private capital. There's very little that looks like that anywhere in the world. So, in today's world where the digital economy is powering growth, wireless networks, fixed networks, are the bedrock of any society.
Yeah, and it's not a journey you've made alone, right? You've had stakeholders along the way,
That's right.
partnerships that have been critical in the growth of the company.
Yeah.
Let's talk a little bit about their impact and who they are.
No, I mean, in the success and progress of MTN over the last 30 years, I mean, there's a broad stakeholder group. I mean, the customers are the most important. If you think about, these people trust us to, to be reliably connected onto networks. And we've built, as I said, a base of 288 million to date across our 18 markets. The regulators in the markets who create the regulatory frameworks that enable us to operate, these have been critical. The host nations, every country we operate has an ambition around its own strategy where they want to take their people to. We try and align ourselves with that. And so they've been critical in enabling us to grow and to do everything we do, to invest in the networks, and to be able to repatriate dividends and all of those good things. And in most markets, actually, we've gone in with partners. Yeah. We have gone into new markets and found locals to partner with. And I think that's probably been the most unique thing about MTN. We have not wanted to go into a market without local partners. Our staff, I think one of the things that makes MTN unique is we're a truly Pan-African organization. Sure. We have 70 nationalities in this company. Oh, wow. 70 nationalities. And I take a lot of pride when I look at my executive committee as an example. You have a Senegalese there, you have Nigerians, you have Ghanaians, South Africans, Lebanese, you name them. And I think that's part of what I call the yellow magic, sure, which is this diversity. So our staff has been very important as stakeholders as well. And, finally, and probably it goes without saying, it's just, governments more generally, particularly the ministries that, oversee us beyond the regulators, ministries of finance, competition authorities. Without that whole setup of stakeholders, I don't think MTN, we wouldn't have made this progress.
Yeah, and 30 years of building the largest African telecommunications company. I want to talk about what the next 30 years or what the MTN Group of the future looks like.
Yeah, look, we rest on the shoulders of giants. Many MTNers, CEOs and their teams and boards, etc. before my time. And it's always a little bit easier when somebody has done the hard work. Not that the hard work has ended, but as we look forward, we're excited about the future, Godfrey. When we see the demand for data and internet services and what the internet can bring to drive socioeconomic progress. So we still see waves on waves of data growth. The big wave we see now is consumer. We think enterprise is the next. 5G in our minds is a big industrial application for business, smart cities, safe cities, ports, logistics, mining, safe mining. So there's another wave of growth on the enterprise side that we're seeing, and I think we're just beginning. Fintech, I think we're only beginning right now. We are very far from saying the job is yet done to include more Africans. We're going to play in infrastructure, but in a partnership model. So the infrastructure, particularly fiber, and to some extent data centers, more and more needs to get built. Yeah. And there's a role for us to play there. So, I mean, the next 30 years of MTN, I think, we are going to be, pursuing the next, waves of generation and growth. We've gone through 4G to 5G, yeah. 6G will come, yeah. which is really going to be about always being connected, yeah. Where you leverage, satellites, terrestrial networks, yeah. undersea cables to ensure that you're always on.
Are you talking about me in my rural home?
In your rural home, you'll have a high-speed connection. That time is coming, and it's going to be affordable. And we'll be balancing terrestrial networks with LEO satellites. When you go to your rural area, your home that you love so dearly, yeah. You'll be connected. but it'll be the combination of all these forms of technology that create this I'm always on, this ubiquitous, always connected with a good quality connection. That time is coming, and that's the next decade or so.
It sounds like a lot of money that needs to be invested.
Money for sure is going to come into it, and that's why I keep referring to partnership capital. Right. Part of the future of MTN is we're not going to do everything alone. We need to be smart about how we partner. You've seen us now thinking about the fintech business to say we're not going to do everything. We're going to partner with the likes of MasterCard on payments in particular, and also thinking about remittance. We're going to partner in insurance with a company like Sanlam and so forth. So a lot of capital is going to be required, but we need to think smartly about how we crowd in other people's capital aside our capital. We don't have the balance sheet, and most MNOs won't have the balance sheet to fund all of that. So smart partnerships are going to be the real deal going forward. And that's something that we know we need to do, and we are readying ourselves for that as we look at the next decade.
You reminded me of what the banks of the past were. I think I remember you talked asset management, you talked insurance, and then you talked obviously the commercial banking and those type of things. And then we heard about the fact that the banks wanted to divest a little bit because their pie was being eaten by the telecommunications company. That space for telecommunications companies in terms of integrating banking, telecommunications, and all these other things that you guys are able to do. Will there be a company like that in the future that looks like MTN?
I like to say that we don't compete with banks, and most banks agree with me, but sometimes we don't. What we're trying to do is, I think about what we're doing as financial inclusion. We're including those who've been left out, because they are quite limited in their financial resources. So, Godfrey, I would love for you to be a customer of ours in our mobile money fintech business, but you're not the traditional customer because you're well banked and well served. So where we're going is where people are underserved, and that's why we think of what we're doing in fintech as financial inclusion. It's we go and we talk to that customer who can spend, $1, maybe $2.50 maximum on financial services a month. That's the customer we're after. So, traditional banks and insurance companies do not get to those customers. They will not make an economic return because of the infrastructure they need to build. But what we've been able to do is leverage our capability, our distribution, the technology that we have to get to those customers. For sure, over the next 5 to 10 years, what you're going to see is a much more amplified experience of our fintech business. So it'll start looking a bit like banking. Sure. But that customer that we're dealing with, their needs are quite different from ours. And we see that mostly when we're outside of South Africa, when we look at across our markets. So we're not trying to compete with banks. I don't think banks are also trying to become telecommunications operators because they then have to put in this enormous capex that we've put into the ground. So the smart thing in the future is partnerships, is to find win-win partnerships between. So compete and cooperate over time, I think, is going to become the norm. Is in 1 minute you're talking to somebody competitively, in another moment you're looking to collaborate.
Smart partnerships of the future.
Smart partnerships of the future.
Ralph, thank you very much for your time.
Much appreciated.